My name is Luis Espinosa, and I'm the Director for the Office of Evangelization and Catechesis. And one of the questions I was asked most recently is, Luis, why is it that we're singing Gloria during the week? And so I'm saying this because we just finished celebrating as a church one of the two octaves that we have. So the word octave comes from the Latin meaning eighth or eight. And so for our purposes, and when we talk about liturgy, when we say the word octave, we should think about both that eighth day, but also those 8 days that lead up to that celebration of the octave. And so we have to go back into history a little bit, knowing that at the beginning of the early church, this was not a common practice to have octaves or 8 days of celebration. And it was really as during the Middle Ages that we saw this coming, in that there was many octaves for many celebrations, many feasts, and so they were even overlapping each other. So the first pope to kind of restrict this was Pope Pius V in the Missal that was published in 1570, that he restricted the number of octaves. But that wasn't enough. Later on, through the course of the history of the church, we come to find that Leo XIII and Pius X also made some modifications, changes, even classifying them differently. So we go forward to Pius XII in 1955, that he even restricted the celebration of the octaves a bit further. He reduced the octaves to only 3. And so Pope Pius XII said that we were to only celebrate Christmas, Easter, and Pentecost. Then we go forward a bit in time into the 1969, when the liturgy was reformed once again. And so Pope Paul VI in 1969, when he published our current Missal, the Roman Missal, he also even took another step and restricted it by reducing the octaves to only 2. So we have the celebration of the Octave of Easter. We have the celebration of the Octave of Christmas. So then in the church we have these 2 octaves. Most of this is found in what we call the universal norms on the liturgical year and the general Roman calendar, that gives us these ideas of what it means to celebrate these octaves. So we go further in this universal norms, we find that in Title 2, talking about the cycle of the year, we have the mention of the Easter octaves in number 24. It says the 8 days of Easter time constitutes the Octave of Easter and are celebrated as solemnities of the Lord. So we could say that during these celebration of these 8 days, so beginning with the Easter resurrection Sunday of the Lord, so we going forward and celebrating every single day, we're going to notice and we're going to call every successive day as a mini Easter. And so that's why it's important that we understand that as we say it's a mini Easter, we recognize that importance of this great feast, in that we are asked to sing or at least recite the Gloria. And that leads us up to the actual 8th day. The 8th day that Pope John Paul II established that now that second Sunday of Easter as being the Octave of Easter, the 8th day, would be celebrated as Divine Mercy Sunday. So giving us that importance of celebrating every day as if it was Easter again. So again, saying that mini Easter. When we talk about Christmas, Christmas has its own octave. And so we see this in number 35 in this universal norms on the liturgical year in the calendar. And that number 35 says that the Nativity of the Lord has its own octave. And it's arranged thus. So we have a listing of these successive days, beginning with the Nativity of our Lord on the 25th, going forward and ending with the 1st of January. So that 1st of January, that we remember that we celebrate Our Lady, we celebrate the most holy Mother of God, Mary. And so we celebrate on this octave, on this 8th day, Mary, as she is part of this plan of salvation. And we celebrate that fact that she was the first to receive the words of the angel, and she was the first to believe. And so these 8 days, these octaves, one of the things I want to mention before we close is that one of the celebrations, or several celebrations that stayed with the celebration of the octaves, we find in September. September 8th, we celebrate the Nativity of the Blessed Mother. We celebrate the Nativity of Mary Most Holy. But then going forward, as part of those 8 days, we see that we have on the 12th of September, we have the optional memorial of the most holy name of the Blessed Virgin Mary, in that within that octave of the Nativity of Mary, we have that celebration on the 15th of Our Lady of Sorrows. So those are 3 of the celebrations that were left as part of the calendar, but we no longer celebrate that octave of the Nativity of Mary. And so again, octaves are those celebrations that we have in the church, actually 2. One celebration that we have as part of the Easter season, so beginning with that first Sunday of Easter and ending with the second Sunday of Easter. But then we also have that octave of Christmas, that octave that begins with the 25th, and it has its unique celebrations from the 26th, the 27th, 28th, 29th, and then leading us up to that 1st of January. So the octave of octaves that we celebrate are those celebrations in the church that we emphasize that unique and special fact that Christ first was born. So when we celebrate the octave of Christmas, but then also that Christ resurrected from the dead as we celebrate that resurrection and going forward in that season of Easter.